Oh my God, how fun is this? So, disclaimer, like Liya and I do this on a regular. We talk about books and things we love and poetry, and you're actually the only friend I do this with. So I was like,
True.
literally, you're the only bookworm that I know. I mean, no, and you now. um, so for all the book lovers, of course, when we talk about creativity and love, and I was thinking about how we could talk about the place of the creative space and how we create from a place of love. And how do you create things that come from things you love doing? And you, for example, Liya, I'll start with you. You started Liyabrairie. Maybe you can tell us what it is. Because people like Lucas, people know him as an actor, but they don't know the other side, the many sides of him as an activist, as a clearly a philosopher now, we know. Liya, you do so many things. You're the founder of Lemlem, you're an actor, you're a model. Most people know you as a model, I would assume. But you're also the most well-read, the best recommendation of books I've ever had. I cannot wait to finish the one you recommended so that I can start the next one you recommended. So maybe you can tell us what you do, how you do it, and how you bring love into your work and your initiative with Liyabrairie.
Thank you so much. Firstly, I think the only reason why I'm here is because I love you so much. So already this is about love.
I love you.
Only few people can bring me to these kind of places, so there you go. So thank you, and it's amazing. Actually, it was really amazing to hear all this stuff, and I really want to know the cutting the butter with the knife thing, like whatever that is.
That was deep.
I'm very curious, and I want to hear more about that. I think I've been thinking a lot about, how I fit into this panel, actually, and I guess the only way I can think about it is. I was born in Ethiopia. I lived all my life in Ethiopia, etc. And I think growing up in Ethiopia, it's also like the way the society is there. Like you always are brought up knowing that you have to sort of help your environment, the people around, if there's people less fortunate than you, etc., etc. So I really grew up in a home with my mother being a very huge advocate and philanthropist just by nature, right? Like there's no organization or anything of that fact, but I mean, it's in Africa, I think this is very common. So I think I've always grown up with that kind of like the sharing of the love, right? The generosity of reaching out to others, etc., etc. And I think when I first started my brand, Lemlem, it was really from a place of love because I didn't have a business plan. The business plan was, I want to help the artisans. We have to keep the art of weaving alive in Ethiopia because it was dying. We need to give jobs to artisans so that they can have a better life and give lives and give better lives for their families. And that was 2007 maybe, and we're still there. And we have like 250 people and all their families. And every time I work on Lemlem, really, it's just a space of love, and everyone who works at Lemlem is full of love and does it from love, and it's very gratifying. And so I feel like for me, that's the love I'm giving out. And then living in the Western world, you sort of start learning about, which I guess I never did before, about self-love. And it's new. It's a new concept. Not just Western love, but it's also very trendy in the moment, right? In the last few years about, self-care and self-love. And I'm like, what is this thing I've never heard of before? And I guess slowly I started opening up myself to it and trying to understand what it was. And I came to the conclusion that there were things that I could do that was just good for me and made me feel loved by myself, to myself, right? And books were that, because sitting and reading a book gives me that and gives me that kind of pleasure.
That's self-love for you.
And that's self-love for me, yeah. And but I still want to share it, so I created a sort of a social, an Instagram account really at first to talk about the books that I love, to share the books that I love and recommend them, to share the bookstores that are amazing spaces where I always feel nourished in when I walk into one. If I'm in a bad mood, actually, it's a very good place for me to go in, and I forget everything, and you just feel this kind of, I don't know what it is, just being around books, it just does something. It lifts the energy, you know? It makes me feel better. And so I wanted to share also like all the bookstores I've been to and I love, et cetera, et cetera. And so for now, it's kind of this, and I guess, yeah, I feel like this is how this makes sense to me.
I love how it makes sense to you.
Yeah.
But it kind of weaves in perfectly with you, Erin. So maybe you can tell us the place of books in your life. I mean, you've transformed. I mean, last year was the transformative power of love. You've transformed the lives of so many people with books, with your love for books. But yeah, tell us, for the ones that don't know Erin Gruwell in the room, tell us who you are.
I'm an educator, and I began my journey in a classroom with students who ironically hated books and hated school and sadly hated one another. And I wanted to teach them that it's hard to hate who you know. So ultimately tried to love them back to life. I worked in a community that had about 125 homicides. And in this community, most of the students that I taught statistically had lost a father or a friend, a nephew or a neighbor, and they just assumed that they would be next. So they led with their fists, they led with a gun, and I wanted them to lead with a pen and take that pen and that pain and have that begin a story, and write with urgency and write different chapters for their own lives, envision a different ending to their own story. And I had no idea that these students who hated reading, hated each other, would ultimately become a family of authors and activists. They took the name Freedom Writers in honor of civil rights activists in America called Freedom Writers, R-I-D-E-R. And these activists in America, the Freedom Writers, R-I-D-E-R, fought segregation and racism. And my class was embroiled in a racial reckoning. And so writing their story gave them this urgency of now and this ability to be seen and heard and matter. So their stories became a book. We called it the Freedom Writer's Diary. And wonderfully and weirdly, Hollywood decided to take their story and make it into a movie. And I'm the nerdy teacher, but this very glamorous actress named Hilary Swank plays me in the movie, and she is the teacher who teaches these young people to have words, not weapons, become a legacy.
When I started the panel, I used a very important thing, which is to see the potential in a person, a project, or a community before it has even manifested, which is both what you did. And that comes from love. Like, you saw the potential of people in Ethiopia because you're born there, you are Ethiopian, and you saw the potential in the community, you saw the potential in the community of a community that was not really your community. How did you do that? How did you connect with a community that was not yours and still raised it into love?
You know, I think for a lot of vulnerable people, they just want to be seen. They just want to be heard. And ultimately, they want to be loved. And I had a lot of students who didn't have a relationship with love. So it was easier to push people away and push their problems down. And writing gives you voice. Writing gives you a legacy. Writing allowed them to envision a different life. In our case, their words became their scholarship to be the first to go to college and to become these wounded healers and choose professions that really started with their pain. And so I think for both of us, we just want to give agency to people who feel they don't have agency. And I think we're both advocates and allies using love as our vehicle.
I'm going to get back to you, Liya, but before that, can you share the story that you shared with me on the prep call about the child that had never had a hug?
So in my story, it started with a student who had been abandoned at 6 months old and was not in the system. And he sadly drew this horrific note, a caricature that we have in our book and in the film, dehumanizing another one of my students. And I had been told earlier to get rid of all of these kids, just send them away. And I thought, if I send them away in a city that has already buried 125 kids, one of these boys, specifically this one who had been abandoned, is going to be a statistic, the 126 kid that we buried. And he asked me a question on that first day. He said, "Do you think I was an ugly baby?" And I thought, that's such a horrible question. So I said, "No, Carlos, there's no such thing as an ugly baby." To which he said, "Well, I must have been, or why else would my mom have abandoned me?" And I have spent the better part of my career loving into this boy. And he went from calling me Miss G to Mama G. And he became this anchor for so many others who push away and push down to lead with love. It's easier to take out a spray can and write on a wall. It's easier to take out your fist and punch somebody. Sadly, it's easier to take out a gun and destroy. And now this big gangster goes through life hugging people and loving on them and paying it forward.
Thank you for sharing the story. Liya, a question for you. You're so well read, like it's incredible. I feel so privileged to be your friend because you make such great suggestions. And literally, like, if you go to your Instagram page, you started a new format where you read some passages, which feels like so wonderful. What is the book that you've read? I know you're going to tell me, it's such a hard question. It's impossible to answer, Nora. But if you had to pick, on the recent books you've read, a book that best described love, or felt the best representation of what love is? Hard question, I know.
I have to think. You should have asked me this before.
But you did give me the latest book you told me to read about Eve.
Yeah.
I really loved.
But that's a bit religious, so maybe.
It's a bit religious, but I thought it was interesting about the place of women, and I feel like it kind of ties in with all of that we're discussing with the mothers, which is so funny, because every time I do this this panel, somehow the mother presence, the mother figure, the feminine shows up. Like, does it mean? So maybe I'll ask you another question. You can come back, or maybe post panel you can share with us a list of books. But maybe the mothering of this world has been lacking. And that's why we always come back to this. What do you think?
The mothering of what?
Of the world. Mothering the world. Like remothering the world into something new, where it's more loved. Like loving the water, mothering the water, loving your friends. You know, having a different... We talked about this with Mayada. Like, Mayada will show up to a random coffee meeting with like cookies made by her mom, because she knows my mom has passed, so she's giving me a little bit of her mom's love to me. So I think it's interesting, the mothering aspect, and you are an amazing mother. Do you think that's that? The mothering that's missing? And that could be a man or like a male or female. Like mothering doesn't have, it's a verb. It's not a person. Like you mothered me with your cookies. Thank you again, because we're so good.
I guess I would say you usually attribute like mothering to a sort of gentleness, right? It's kind of like what's missing is just gentleness.
Gentleness.
You know what I mean? It's like it's I mean, we're lucky to have mothers who mother us, of course, but not everyone has that, right? But I think a little bit of gentleness just goes a long way. Just on the daily, you know, a little word here, a little word there, a little recognition of another. You know, sometimes you just see each other, or recognition of another's pain. Sometimes all someone needs is just someone that says, I see you, I hear you. Like you said, you were saying all vulnerable people want to be seen and heard. Everyone wants to be, I think. At the end of the day, we all want to be seen and heard and understood, right? And we're all looking for the same thing. We're all looking for love, always and forever, from whomever, from your mom, from your partner, from your children, from your friends, from strangers.
So given that you read so much, to both of you, what's the word you love the most?
I think some of your panelists said it earlier, empathy and compassion
Passion.
and hope.
I think mine is going to be butter now. What about you, Liya? I'm never going to look at butter the same way. Thank you, Lucas. It's all your fault.
Me neither.
What's your word, Liya?
I would say gentleness, I think.
Ooh, I like that. Gentleness. So the two words that they can take away from this part is gentleness
And empathy.
and empathy.
And I would say also leading with love. If we all
Leading
left
with
here
love.
leading with love.
Yes. Even when it's hard. Because
Especially when it's hard.
Sometimes it's so hard.
But you know, you can also just lead with neutrality. It's better.
Neutrality.
You know what I'm saying?
Ooh, I like
if
that.
you can't do love,
You just dissolve.
just do neutral.
Yeah, neutral.
Don't go below. You know
just-
what I'm saying? Like, at least stay on the neutral and lead with that. If you can't
Yeah.
bring up the love, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's not. It's not easy to always wake up with love, be with love, and lead with love. I mean, it's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
So if you cannot do that, maybe even starting with neutrality, you're already at a good place.
Totally.
And then you move up slowly.
Yeah.
Gentleness, right?
Gentleness.
Gentle.
Well, before I close this panel, I would like to say to this one person in my team who's been incredible, that I love, this wonderful Paz, who's been so supportive and great. So you can't do the things without the people who love you. So big heart to Paz. And again, this year, I would like to, because mothers showed up so much in this panel, I'd like to dedicate this panel to my mom. Wherever she is. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.